guess I didn't try hard enough.
See, now if this was a show, it'd be super hot if you two kissed.
Krista, if this was a show, you'd be killed off for being horny. Brenda? Wait, did you climb in my locker to prove how skinny you are again? Ugh, we get it.
What the hell was that?
Hey everyone, it's me and Eldest back with another video, and today we're going to be talking about the new Velma show. And it is bad, awful, terrible. It's not even like it's so bad it's good, that there's some weird enjoyment, or the fact that it could be a guilty pleasure. It is just downright bottom of the barrel awful. It is a show that you would believe was written by your feminist fanboy on Tumblr or DeviantArt or something. It is almost unbearable. It is so shocking that this was written and produced by an actual studio and then put on HBO Max. And HBO Max, I used to believe it was one of the better streaming platforms until some of the bullshit decisions they've made, like canceling and taking away a lot of exclusives animation shows, and only for them to be replaced by this piece of shit. It is so bad. And I watched both episodes. I suffered through both episodes. And usually I would leave spoiler alerts or something, but this show isn't even worth caring about spoilers. So I'm just going to say anything Carefree to Win. I do not recommend watching this show at all. I didn't even watch it on HBO Max because I did not want to give them any streaming support whatsoever, because the show does not work. It's not worth that. And it's actually funny because there was like some propaganda where it's like, oh, Velma is the most biggest premiere date that for animation ever on HBO Max, and it was just like, because you took them all out. You took all the animation shows away. So of course it's going to be like one of the biggest ones. And of course, naturally, because a lot of people went in to hate watch it. No one actually went into the show with any real intentions to like it. It was pretty much one big hate watch show. And that's why the premiere was so big. And now that everyone knows how terrible it is, that hype is going to die. So even though I'm pretty sure season 2 might be guaranteed because of this, it's not going to get any more than that, simply because the hype is dead now. Like, no one's going to keep, hardly anyone's going to actually keep going to watch this show because of how cringy it is. If there is one line to describe Velma, it is made by people who spend way too much time on Twitter. They say all of the BuzzFeed words. They say everything that you would hear on Twitter, the way all these characters act, the way the characters sound, what they say. It is BuzzFeed's words from fucking Twitter. I'm not even exaggerating when I say that. It is written by people that spend so much time on Twitter is that they think that Twitter is literally real life.
That's not fair. I'm not just a waitress. I'm also
A basic bitch who doesn't even know how to use hashtags?
No, I'm also hashtag the owner of Spooners. Oh, the baby's kicking. Hashtag get my new camera out of my bag, Amon.
No exaggeration. But what about the show itself? The writing, the animation, any weird, any real character arc or anything? Like, what about the show itself? Well, the show itself, it is suffering from a lot of flaws from a story standpoint, writing standpoint, just character standpoint. Everything, like, Velma does everything wrong in the terms of storytelling. For starters, none of the characters are likable. Velma is one of the most rudest, insulting, just one of the most unbearably unlikable protagonists I've seen in a series in so long. She is just naturally rude to everyone that she talks and thinks she's so high and full of herself. And even when she is confronted with the reality that she's wrong about things that she does in the show, she still finds a way to put herself on a higher pedestal and victimize herself. She is just unbearably rude to everyone for their race, for their ethnicity, for their class. Like, she just finds literally a reason to just hate everyone. Shaggy, or Norville that they call him, they don't even like call him Shaggy at all, because it's not Shaggy it literally is not, is turned into a male beta simp that has a huge crush on Velma, but Velma friend zones him a lot, not really processing that he actually likes her. And so he goes to the far lengths trying to win her love by literally almost on the verge of like selling an organ so he can help her get something, so he can blackmail her into a date. Daphne is the epiphany of a 14-year-old leftist bitch on Twitter. She is just cool to be cool. She's just that rich white girl that just thinks she's better because she's rich. And then you have Freddie, who is definitely the worst character, and also the character that got... Actually, no. Velma's definitely worse, but what they did to Fred was obviously meant to be the worst of the worst, because he is what every feminist thinks a guy is. A white, rich, annoying, obnoxious guy who is rude to everyone, who is taken care of by his parents and has just been privileged their entire life with no real emotions or feelings at all. All the characters are unlikable. And it's like they're so distant from who they, from the original source, where they actually came from. One, you wonder why they use these characters to begin with, because they're nothing like their counterparts at all. And two, the fact that if all of these characters were given different names, you would not know that this show was meant to be Scooby-Doo, that they came from Scooby-Doo. That's how different these characters are, how unlikable these characters are. And literally, the things that they say, just on top of these unlikable personality, it just makes it so hard to watch them.
I was waiting to shower alone.
Because of your weight?
What? No.
Because of your handsome face?
My face is fine.
Because of your hairy gorilla arm?
No.
Now that you're not a total dog, do you want to hang out at Spooner's Mall Shop later?
Yes, because I'm just a normal, well-adjusted teen now, like all of you.
She is.
My opinions change.
Yes, underneath this banging new look, Velma is still the fashionably challenged loser we depend on for group projects.
There's something wrong with taking established characters and trying something new with them, giving them a slightly different portrayal, or putting them in a different setting, or modernize them. If done right, it can actually be very entertaining, very funny, and it's nice to see that different approach. There are tons of reboots, remakes, or just new takes on different characters. I mean, if we look at Sonic, from the Sonic movie, from Sonic Frontiers to Sonic Prime, all of the Sonics are different from one another, personality-wise. Movie Sonic is really childish. Sonic Frontiers Sonic is actually very mature, and then Sonic Prime is very outgoing, very loud, and all over the place, very loud. But the thing is that despite them having different portrayals of each version of this character, they always maintain the same principle of what makes Sonic Sonic. Always caring about his friends, saving the world by putting everyone else before himself. And of course, the main thing is that he is very fast, a blue hedgehog, and he loves chili dogs, which is always the big thing. He always has to love chili dogs, because those are the main principles of what makes Sonic Sonic. So even if he has a slightly different portrayal and personality, a likable personality, might I add, that even though he is slightly different, you can still fall in love with this version of the character because it is still has enough in him of that original character. Not to mention the entire show, movie, games always respects the original source, where they came from. So you will most likely fall in love with the character regardless of slightly different portrayals. And that is something that the show could have done. Because remember, these characters are originally from the 80s, doing adult things even though they're teenagers. So to put them in an actual teenager setting in the 21st century, dealing with real murderers, that could actually be cool. Mystery Incorporated is an example of, is like taking that idea and maturing it a little bit and making their threats not just people in disguises or in robots or something. Like, the threats in Mystery Incorporated were real, and they could have taken something like that and just mature it even more so, and be given that freedom to just be able to go just a little bit darker, or darker just altogether, like an adult theme Scooby-Doo spinoff or Velma show could be good, but not this way. Just not this way. Because it's like, all of the characters are just, you can't root for any of them. You can't. And the thing is that there are, like, good elements of the show there are really good elements of the show, but altogether it is just one dull experience. Like, the animation is fine. I actually like the character design of Daphne. I think that, when it comes to modernizing or updating a character that's from the 80s, I think Daphne is, like, a really good example of taking her original character design and then just finding some way to, like, modernize it but still have some attachment to the old design. I feel like they did a good job with Daphne. She's pretty much the only one I feel like they did a good job with, because, Shaggy, he really got robbed here, just making him completely black and not like Shaggy at all. Why did this show exist? And there are, like, in the hallucinations Velma gets, I actually think those are the highlights of both episodes, is when she's suffering through the hallucinations. And it is actually a concept plot that, if they didn't do so poorly, could actually be very interesting. Because the problem that is ongoing in the show right now is that someone murdered 2 students in the school, and in the first episode, they believe it's Velma since one of the bodies were found in her locker. Which, by the way, is like in the intro, and the intro in itself is awful. And so in the first episode, Velma only has 24 hours to prove her innocence, and gets some help from Norville, Shaggy, and they go out trying to figure out who is behind the actual murderer. Except Velma has issues because every time she tries to solve a mystery, she gets hallucination, because she used to solve mysteries with her mother, who has now since gone missing for years. And while her dad tries to tell her that she had left them because they were awful to her, Velma does not believe that she just left them. She believes that her mother was taken or was killed or something bad happened. But because she left Velma because of the whole thing of her solving mysteries for her mother, every time she tries to solve a mystery now, she gets these terrible hallucinations. And that is pretty much the overall, like, what happens in episode 1, which then ends with her falsely accusing Freddy, and he gets arrested, and everyone thinks he did it. And then in episode 2, while Velma's dad is Fred's lawyer trying to win the case so he would become rich for his pregnant girlfriend. Yeah, like, even he's a bad character because he, like, got together with this random woman while his wife was missing. Her leaving actually does not seem that big of that hard of a thing to believe, actually. And Velma is going to Daphne trying to get her mother's cold missing file case, because Daphne's moms are the detectives of that case, or were the detectives of that case. So Daphne then was like, hey, give it to me for $500, or you can work with my drug dealing business to earn some money. And that's the overall plot of that. Until towards the end of the episode, her dad says, I'll give you the $500 if you can help me prove Fred is innocent. And even then, when Velma realizes that Fred is actually innocent, the way she just goes on trying to prove his innocence in court is also just on the verge of, he's so privileged that he doesn't even know how to feed himself, and he can't even handle a knife. So, like, how could he murder them? Not even lying. That is exactly what happens. So, not using any real evidence enough to give doubt, or doing real investigation or work, or finding a witness or some clue that actually could put doubt into Fred's innocence. No, circumstances evidence that involves embarrassing him in front of everyone. Even though you admit you're wrong, your way of going about on redeeming yourself is by still standing in it being exactly the same rude ass bitch and just embarrassing him in front of everyone. I almost forgot to add that Velma and Daphne end up kissing at the end of episode 2. Even though they spent the majority of both episodes literally hating each other and beating each other up, literally. Because they were like formal best friends, and then they start being forced to help each other, and then, I don't know, she kisses her. Even though Daphne is dating Fred. I don't know, it all feels so forced. And of course, the show is a comedy. Which is an insult me saying that to actual comedy animation shows. Because this show, all the jokes are just meta jokes. Like, oh, if we were in a TV show, we would be doing this, but we're not, so we're not going to do that. Or to just basic insults like, Fred is just a rich white guy with a tiny dong. I am not lying. That is literally a quote in the fucking show. And just so many jokes. It's funny because the show, it's like they are trying to be like, honestly, I don't even know what the show is going for with its jokes. If it's trying to be like insulting to everyone, if it's just trying to be like they think they're calling everything out or whatnot, because it's like they literally insult, like, these people must have hate animation because they literally make a joke that insults adults for watching animation.
All our classmates are idiots, so let's assume they're high.
You know what 420 is, right?
Yeah, it's code for adults who still watch cartoons.
You can't make this shit up. How did this get made? And it's actually sad because it's like, once again, meta jokes can work if done right. Once again, Sonic Boom is a really good example of meta jokes that are done right. That show is full of self-aware meta jokes talking about criticizing the fandoms and how they overreacted on Boom's design, or how the studio themselves kind of fucked Sonic over because at that point Sonic was just at the low barrel with their Sonic Boom franchise, or even they literally make a pee-pee joke, and it's better. Like, literally, imagine that, a kid's show about a hedgehog that's always on steroids does a better job at a pee-pee joke.
Is this a towel?
What am I supposed to cover with that? Are you making fun of me?
And of course, one of the biggest things of why this comedy works so well in Sonic Boom is, one, they're not doing it in every single scene in every single episode, but also a lot of these meta jokes are also inside jokes that the fandom will get, and you laugh at it because it's actually really true, and the delivery and the voice acting is done very well. Like, seriously, Sonic Boom is actually really good with its writing. I'm gonna probably watch it after I'm done editing this video. And the jokes, it's just like, there is literally like no real joke. I didn't even laugh like once or was near close to making the motions in my throat of chuckling at all during these 2 episodes. Yeah, because only 2 episodes are out at the time that I'm recording this, and they were both equally just so bad. But also, I think one of the biggest real crimes of the show, besides being so insulting to the fandom and to these characters and just to the original source itself, is that there is a lot of like telling rather than showing. Because there are little things in the show that could be very interesting plot-wise, but they just tell it to you so flat out in one scene and then continue it, pushing like past through any real development in the next scene, that you really can't get time to fully adjust and to feel for anything for these characters, especially Velma, because in the first episode they try to get you to feel sorry for her when she tells Fred about her and her mother and how she grew up with her mother, giving her mysteries to solve and basically telling us how she went missing and how that affected her. And it was like, okay, cool, like this could be something that you could have worked or built up to, but they basically just tell you everything. And then right in the next scene, when confronted by her father and his girlfriend, it's then basically being like, oh, well, she didn't actually go missing, she just left us because because she hated us. And and Velma being like, no, I can't accept that because that means she didn't love us. And then she's just like, no, she probably did leave us because she just hated us. I'm gonna move on and be a new person. Oh, wait, I actually don't really believe that. I'm having hallucinations still. great, I'm back now. Literally, just scene after scene after scene. The pacing of the show is so awful. It's just like, nothing, there is no real time to fully adjust. There's no real time to fully get involved into the story. And then the main plot, which is supposed to be Velma forming this team by solving these murders of these two classmates, it's basically a side plot at this point, because it's like hardly the main focus in episode 2. It's just her trying to get her mother's missing files case and Shaggy trying to get money to win Velma over. Literally, there's no real, like, that main plot has not even fully been, it's not even the main focus, which is like, what? It's like the script was written by 5 different people who had no idea what this show was supposed to be about. And of course, and the biggest thing is that Scooby-Doo is not in the show at all. It's a Scooby-Doo spinoff that Scooby-Doo is not even featured in. And the reason why for that is because Warner Brothers basically told them they were not allowed to, explicitly forbidding them. They say it was because they had no idea how to take an already established character that was always geared towards children and put them in a real setting involving actual murderers. Which is a unnecessarily long, wordy way of saying, we don't want you to fuck Scooby-Doo too. Overall, Velma, it is just a definition of a show of people that live in a bubble that do not have any love or care for the original source, for Scooby-Doo, for the fandom itself, and or just don't know the basic principles of writing and telling a good story. It's really sad. So I don't know if it's like I'm the person who believes that if you're going to fully hate on something, you should at least have like watched a bit of it or try to, you know, have some actual knowledge of the full thing rather than just hating on such a small part because everyone else does, which is why I watch Cutie. So I may watch the rest of the series when it comes out just to see if it gets any better, if it gets any worse, or, you know, and to give the entire season a rating like I did with Sonic Prime. As it is right now, though, it is a 2 out of 10 right now because, and the 2 out of 10 is mostly from the animation and the occasional good concept plots that I actually did enjoy or would have liked to know more about. But overall, it is just a show that's so hard to sit through because of how bad the characters are and the dialogue. It's actually interesting too because even the acting isn't like fine, but the dialogue's bad. Like Velma herself, like somehow her screamings, like every time she screams, sounds so fake. I don't know how to explain it. It just sounds so bad every time you hear her scream, and she screams a lot, especially for when she hallucinates. So you're just hearing this fake screaming constantly. It's so bad. It's really bad. I know I keep saying that, but I just cannot express how terrible this show is. So right now it's looking to be a 2 out of 10, but we'll see. It might be, at this point, I think the rating might get even lower, because even me talking about it, I think a 2 out of 10 is being generous. Because goddamn is this show. It was, I do not know how I was able to sit through it, because it is generally just Twitter feed after Twitter feed. It's sad that so many shows got canceled and taken off of HBO Max, but nope, this is the thing that we keep on. This is the show that we're gonna stand by. Great HBO Max. Thanks. So I don't recommend Velma at all. And if you are, there are other ways to watch it than HBO Max. I don't like saying that at all, but if there's any way not to support the show in any way, I say go with that, because I didn't watch it off of HBO Max. I'm not even gonna lie. It's not worth supporting HBO Max. And I don't even have HBO Max anymore anyway, so yes. So Velma, it's worse. That's the thing. Was the shocking part. Was that I went into the show knowing I was not gonna like it, and yet it was somehow worse. Without any exaggeration, by far the worst animation series I've ever seen in a long time, and probably the worst I've ever seen in my entire 23 years of living on this forsaken planet and this forsaken generation. Oh boy, I'm so glad I'm drinking for this video. I'm gonna probably need more. And with that being said, leave a like, subscribe if you haven't already. I post as often as I can. And Velma, guys, it's bad. But I think everyone already knew that. But the show proved to be even worse. I know I'm constantly saying that, but I just cannot express how bad this show really is. And as always, till next time, bye-bye. This is really